Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me. I always enjoy you sharing your time with me. Today is October the 4th, 2022. I have several updates to share with you. So I will start with one update confirmed by Getachew Reda, Central Committee of the Tigray region, also spokesperson for TDF, about TDF forces withdrawal or retreat from northern Wallo. Also, different media outlets reported about this, even showing the celebration of residents in Kobo when the Ethiopian National Defense Forces enter the city. So this is confirmed. I have the confirmation from Getachew Reda giving interview with Tigray TV to direct talk. So I will start with that one. Then I have another video in Amharic about Ethiopian National Defense Force and intelligence, plus other security apparatus conducted arrest, detaining 166 Ethiopians. According to them, suspected of plotting terror attack during Irrecha celebration in Debre Zeit, Addis Ababa plus Maskell celebration. So that's their side. I have that in Amharic. Then I will. That's the general sense of that video. It will come next after Getachew Reda. Thank you again for joining me. Let's hear what the excuses or the reason why TDF retreat from northern Wallo.
Today we have Getachew Reda, member of Tigray Central Command. We'll be discussing about recent developments on the war in Tigray. Getachew, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, first let's start with yesterday's statement by the Tigray Central Command that the Tigray forces have withdrawn from northern Wallo from Haran territory. Why withdrawing?
Have been withdrawing from northern Wallo. First, because our forces didn't have the intention to stay there indefinitely. It had everything to do with what we meant to achieve by our objective, which was to force the government's hand, the Addis Ababa authorities' hand to sue for peace. Obviously, rather than responding affirmatively to our calls for peace, the regime in Addis Ababa has opted for further escalation of the conflict by once again inviting the Eritrean regime or handing over its authorities to the Eritrean regime to coordinate its efforts against Tigray. That's one area. Obviously, our intention was to force the authorities in Addis Ababa to sue for peace, but looks like it hasn't worked. Second, the efforts by the regime in Addis Ababa to try and dislodge our forces from the positions they had already taken hasn't worked. We have been in control of that part of the country for almost 38, probably 39 days now. They have, apart from the 3 divisions we managed to neutralize after the first invasion on 24th and 25th and 26th of August, we have been repulsing efforts after efforts of the Ethiopian regime to take back territories that had been taken away from it, rather than managing to take authorities back away from us. It's been losing ground after ground, and fortunately or unfortunately, this involved the loss of tens of thousands of people, armed personnel. So it was clear that the authorities in Addis were not in a position to put up more offensive that would threaten our positions. And third, of course, it was becoming increasingly obvious that with the renewed invitation to the authorities in Asmara to join the fray, mostly after the 1st of September, I should think, was 30th of August, the theater of operation obviously shifted to Adiabo. So we realized that there was little or no point for us to focus on Northern Wallo as a theater of operation, and we have to do something about the more concerted effort that's being waged against us in Adiabo and other parts of Tigray. So yeah, that's pretty much why we decided to withdraw from parts of Northern Wallo. In the first place, it was never our intention. Second, our intention was about forcing the hands of the regime to agree to peace, which it is not ready to. Third, there is an increasingly more violent and more potent involvement of the Eritrean forces that's coming from the northwestern part of the country, and we have to deal with that challenge head on. And that's pretty much why we are withdrawing our forces from Northern Wallo. So it doesn't change the fact that if and when there is a military need for us to go back to Northern Wallo or other parts of the country, would still be free to do so. But we are trying to send a message to the people of Amara that we're not particularly interested in land, we're not particularly interested in territory, we are more interested in what we can do with territory than what that territory represents.
Can you give us a picture of the battles in other fronts?
Well, in northwestern parts of Tigray and Ariabo, we've been fighting for the last 39 days. The Eritreans and the Ethiopians have joined hands there, and
I hated sticking my fingers. Then I got the Dexcom G6.
I just glanced at my phone, and there's my glucose number.
Wow.
My A1C's dropped up.
Okay, so that's the argument Mr. Getachew Rada has for TDF forces retreating from northern Wallo area, from Kobo and Kobo Robit and Gobi. So the speech is in English, so not that much translation is needed. But he say, no intention. TDF or TPLF has no intention of holding Amara regions indefinitely, and the purpose was to force Abiy Ahmed to come to the table, but that didn't happen. Plus also the shift in operation to the other parts of the Tigray. So that is, the general argument for retreating TDF forces from Kobo Robit, and Gobiye, in general from northern Wallo area. And it's a long video. If you are interested, you can watch it on Tigray TV. It's an English direct talk. So that's the information if you are interested to hear the whole interview. You can get it on Tigray TV. The next video is the one I said about Ethiopian government, different agencies, the army, the National Defense Force, the intelligence, and the federal police in coordination, detaining about 166 Ethiopians, blaming them as a terror plotters during Irrecha celebration, and showing different weapons. It's scary, really. If this happening in Addis Ababa, I don't know, if Ethiopia can get any investor, any tourist, if Addis Ababa is, dealing with such kind of weapons. But the government is, I think the government is using this news to intimidate, to treat individuals from expressing their frustration, anger against Abiy Ahmed leadership failure. They cannot even protest peacefully because the government can use propaganda, news, and use this as an excuse to silence legitimate protesters. Those expressing grievances against Abiy Ahmed leadership in that country. It's now 166 people. Most of them, I think, those who participated in Irrecha, protested against Abiy Ahmed, against Shimallis Abdisa, against Prosperity Party. So they just go around because they have the video. They can just go around, detain these individuals. Plus, those poor Tigrayans who have no defense at this time, whether domestic or international defense. They can just grab them and put them in jail. This is common under Abiy Ahmed leadership by using any excuse. So let's listen. That is the general sense of this news.
ሁከት በመቀስቀስ ወደ ሀገራዊ ቀውስ እንዲሸጋገር ሲያሲሩ የነበሩ 166 የሽብር ቡድን አባላት በቁጥጥር ስር መዋላቸውን የጸጥታና ደህንነት የጋራ ግብረ ኃይል አስታውቋል።
በመስቀል የደመራ ስነ ስርዓት እንደዚሁም በአዲስ አበባና በቢሾፍቱ
ብራንድ ኒው ቡሌት
የሽብር ተግባር በመፈጸም ሀገራዊ ቀውስ እንዲፈጠር በህቡ ሲያሲሩ የነበሩ ተጠርጣሪዎች በቁጥጥር ስር ውለው ምርመራ እየተካሄደባቸው መሆኑ ተነግሯል።
የጸጥታና የደህንነት የጋራ ግብረ ኃይል እንዳስታወቀው አሸባሪ ቡድኖች በመስከረም ወር በሚከበሩት የአደባባይ በዓላት ላይ ሀገራዊነት ወዳለው ቀውስ እንዲሸጋገር ሴራ ሲጠነስሱ ነበርም ብሏል።
ይሁንና የጸጥታና ደህንነት የጋራ ግብረ ኃይል የአደባባይ በዓላቱ ሰላማዊ ሆነው እንዲጠናቀቁ ባደረገው ጠንካራ ቅድመ ዝግጅትና ሚስጥራዊ ክትትል ሴራውን ከውጥኑ ማክሸፍ ተችሏል።
በዚህም 166 የህወሓት የሸኔ የአይኤስ እንዲሁም የኢመደበኛ አደረጃጀት አባላት በቁጥጥር ስር እንዲውሉ ተደርጓል ያለው የጸጥታና የደህንነት የጋራ ግብረ ኃይል
በተለይ አሸባሪው ሸኔ የሽብር ተግባር የሚፈጽሙ ሴሎችን ሲያደራጅና አባ ቶርቤ የተባለውን ገዳይ ቡድን ለማሰማራት ሙከራ ሲያደርግ መቆየቱን ግብረ ኃይሉ ጠቅሷል።
የጸጥታና ደህንነት የጋራ ግብረ ኃይል በሽብር ቡድኖችና በተጠርጣሪ ግለሰቦች ህቡ እንቅስቃሴና የግንኙነት መረብ ላይ ሲደረግ የነበረው ሚስጥራዊ ክትትልም የአደባባይ በዓላቱን ወደ ቀውስ ለመቀየር ለታቀደው እኩይ ተልዕኮ ማስፈጸሚያ የሚሆኑ የቡድንና የነፍስ ወከፍ የጦር መሳሪያዎች፣ ተቀጣጣይ ፈንጂዎች፣ ቦምቦችና በርካታ ጥይቶችን መያዙንም ነው የገለጸው።
ተጠርጣሪዎቹ ከአይኤስ የሽብር ቡድን ጋር በጋራ እንደሚሰሩና ከአሸባሪው ህወሓት ተልዕኮ ተቀብለው ሲንቀሳቀሱ እንደነበር የሚያስረዱ የሰነድ ማስረጃዎች ተገኝተዋል ብሏል ግብረ ኃይሉ።
በዓላቱ ሰላማዊ ድባብ የሰፈነባቸው እንዲሆኑ መላው ህብረተሰብ ላሳየው ከፍተኛ ተሳትፎም ልባዊ ምስጋናውን የጸጥታና የደህንነት ግብረ ኃይሉ አቅርቧል።
There we go. Tired of dealing with advertisement. Okay, I'll come back to this. I'll come back to these videos at the end of the reading material. So that is, is a government strategy of silencing legitimate protesters, legitimate grievance against Abiy Ahmed. So Abiy uses media propaganda, weapons from the government stack. I don't think these individuals, these protesters, have these weapons, these brand new weapons captured, the government claim captured from them, plus some documentation. Also blaming individuals affiliated with ISIS, Abba Torbe, or Onakshene, plus TPLF affiliated. So this is one strategy that Abiy Ahmed uses to silence any opposition, any protest in Ethiopia by creating fear, and also by detaining individuals who participated in protest, who expressed themselves in protest against Abiy Ahmed. So he just, they have the video, as I said, during Irrecha celebration. So they have the intelligence from in the different celebrations. They just go around and capture these individuals. These individuals are not terrorists. They are not. There is no proof. There is no proof. This is a government setup to silence Ethiopians from demanding the resignation of change of government in Ethiopia. So this is a strategy to, if you try to protest against Abiy Ahmed, you will be detained and you will be prosecuted. That's the message by using media news. Let's continue with the other one, other updates. Around 56,000 students in Ethiopia will not take the 12th grade exit national exam due to the security situation. 56,000 students. This is a big number, but even it looks like small. How many students from Tigray region alone? How many in Amara region? And Oromia region also, so many students displaced because of oil activity, plus FANO, cross-border attacks, plus the government of Abiy Ahmed forces. So many. I think it's more than 56,000. 56,000, but the Ministry of Education just said about 56,000 students in Ethiopia will not take the 12th grade national exit exam this year. And the other interesting thing is the exam takers will not be allowed to bring cell phones, laptops, tablets, and even cannot shine themselves with jewelry like earrings, necklaces, bracelets, watches, and others, except marriage rings. Is this not intrusion in an individual's private or ownership? If it's in the United States, you can refuse, you can persecute, you can challenge, but Ethiopia, no way. You have to abide by whatever they said. If they say you cannot bring watch or you cannot put earrings, they can say whatever. So that's the other interesting thing about this exam. And also the exam will be given for the first time in universities and colleges. According to the government, this is to prevent cheating and the stealing of exams as it happened before. That's their argument. So, but what we can see from this is just killing the dream of Ethiopian young generation under Abiy Ahmed leadership, failed leadership. The dream of getting scholarship at home or around the world, and to become doctors, engineers, scientists, and other professionals. This dream is dead for those 56,000 plus Ethiopian students under Abiy Ahmed leadership. So this is another indication of Abiy Ahmed leadership. So many failures under this Prosperity Party or Abiy Ahmed leadership, but Ethiopians cannot say anything because, as I said, he can use the security apparatus to silence them unless Ethiopians come up with some kind of massive movement and courage to challenge the security apparatus. If you are just silent when 166 people are arrested and accept the government agreement, you can do nothing. He will continue, and the country will be continued falling into the toilet under his leadership. Plus the other conflicts and economic downturns, so many ethnic tension, so many things failed under Abiy Ahmed leadership and Prosperity Party administration. So that's a bad for young generation, for future generation in Ethiopia. They got to figure out to do something against him. This is the next one. I got two from Addis Standard, 2 news. The first one is about prosecuting journalists and one author. Federal prosecutor presses multiple charges against journalist Gobaze Sisai, Maaza Mohammed, and author Asaye Derribe. The federal prosecutor has filed multiple charges against journalist Gobaze Sisai, Maaza Mohammed, as well as author and activist Asaye Derribe, who has been detained since mid-September, the Ministry of Justice has announced. The details of the charges, which were filed at the federal court on Friday, 30 September, include provisions of allegedly spreading false rumor and disclosing the army's battlefield location to the enemy and the public. Wow. Accordingly, journalist Gobaze Sisai, who was re-detained by the federal police on 8 September and who is the first defendant, is facing accusation of appearing on a Twitter space hosted by an account called Amara Perspective and making a speech that the public was against the National Defense Force. Yes, I heard that radio talk or his presentation. He expressed the reality, but that reality caused him trouble. He is accused of saying that the youth do not want to be on the side of the government and stating that the public desires to see the TPLF back in the capital, Addis Ababa. The charge accuses Gobaze of sending out information that undermines the public's confidence on the defense capacity of the government and working to create ideas that harm the good relationship between the people and the army. It also accuses him of posting on his personal Facebook account saying, in the current war, the leaders of Fano, Mere Wadajo, and Demele Aragao, who are fighting against the TPLF, have survived after being shot from behind repeatedly. In this situation, there are users who question, how can I trust the government and go to war? Second, defendant Asaye Deribe and the third defendant Maaza Muhammad are accused of spreading false rumors to the public. The ministry says in an interview on August 25 given to Roha Media, Maaza Muhammad, through a media she manages, say it is possible to end the war. The problem is not that we have an enemy that is not ready to be defeated, but that we have a government that is not interested. Maaza Muhammad, owner and managing director of a YouTube-based media channel, Roha Media, was arrested on September 8, hours after security forces detained journalist Gobaze Sisai of The Voice of Amhara, another YouTube-based media. Maaza is being detained for the third time, while Gobaze's detention is for the second time in as many months. Gobaze's youngest brother, Kadir Sisai, told Addis Standard that Gobaze was arrested by federal uniformed excuse me. Sorry. Apologies, there's a battery issue. Gobaze's younger brother, Kadir Sisai, told Addis Standard that Gobaze was arrested by federal uniformed and plainclothes security forces at 8 a.m. local time on October 8 and said he didn't know where they were taking him to. Gobaze was released on May 9th of this year around 9 p.m. local time after he was reported missing in action for 9 days following his arrest on Sunday, May 1, 2022. Journalist Gobaze has recently traveled to the Amhara region after the ongoing militarized hostilities between the Federal Army along with Amhara region security forces and the Tigray forces resumed on 24 August. He has given interviews and wrote on his Facebook page criticizing the ruling Prosperity Party. On his personal Facebook page, Gobaze wrote that the Amhara people, especially those who share administrative orders with the Tigray region, are tired of the wars relapsing and causing deaths and displacement. He claimed that there are farmers who are saying they do not want the war, nor to be asked to take part in the fighting. This is the third time for Maaza to be detained by security forces. She was first arrested while on her way to work by plainclothes security forces more in the first week of December 2021. Maaza, who previously worked at Abai Media, was released on 18 January this year after having been detained for more than a month without appearing in court of law, leading to her defense team to file habeas corpus at the federal first instance court second bench. She was detained while on her way to work by plainclothes security forces in the first week of December last year. Maaza, on the other hand, was rearrested for the second time on May 28 of this year on the suspicion of inciting violence and riot, but she was released on 10,000 birr bail after 20 days of detention and no charges. Their trial is set to continue after their charge is read out to them in court on Monday. As I said, credit to Addis Standard. So they don't have any ground. They don't have any ground or any proof this journalist did any crime, but they're just intimidating and threatening them with multiple arrests because no court system can challenge them. They can arrest them, release them, and collect their bail money, because you cannot challenge them. The court is under Abiy Ahmed, and the security is under Abiy Ahmed. Everything is controlled by one person, and no justice under his leadership. He is the one deciding, to be, can release you, can arrest you, he can keep you for as long as he wants. It's a one-man show. This is about the Gambella region. Gambella region rejects Rights Commission's report, calls it irresponsible. The Gambella regional government has rejected and condemned Ethiopia Human Rights Commission's EHRC report on extrajudicial killings of at least 50 civilians in the region, following a clash in June between security forces and armed groups. I reported on this one too last time. So now the region is, rejecting that assertion. The regional government says in a statement, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission's September 28 report is very much exaggerated and didn't take facts on the ground into consideration. In addition, informants of the report are supporters of the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, as well as individuals who are suspected of various crimes and were confined in one area, the statement says. Yeah, that's easy way to say just, hey, your witnesses are OLA or TPLF, so your report is dismissed. That's the Gambella regional region strategy. It further accuses the state's rights body, saying that the report is deliberately crafted to incite clashes between native ethnic groups of the region and their Ethiopian brothers and sisters. Nice words. Very nice. I appreciate it. On June 14, 2022, the Oromo Liberation Army, the Gambella Liberation Front militants entered and attacked Gambella town. After hours-long clashes with the regional special forces, regular police, militias, and federal police, government security forces retook control of the city. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission's report, issued 5 days ago following the clash, says action taken mainly by Gambella government forces killed at least At least 50 civilians between the afternoon of 14 June and 16 June, accusing them of hiding Shane fighters and weapons in their homes. Gambella regional government says the report is aimed at weakening the morale of the security forces of the region, who have paid sacrifices toward the attack by Oromo Liberation Army and the Gambella Liberation Front. The report undermines the right to self-defense of our people, and it is irresponsible, the statement said. Self-defense by killing unarmed civilians and individuals already handcuffed behind their back and killing them with multiple gunshots. That's shame on you, Gambella Regional Authority. It's not self-defense, it's just targeting civilians. Okay. Ebola kills doctor in Uganda. First health worker killed in latest outbreak. So this one and the next news is written by Reuters or reported by Reuters news agency. Kampala. A Tanzanian doctor working in Uganda who contracted Ebola has died, the first health worker killed by the disease in the latest outbreak in the country, Uganda's health minister said on Saturday. I regret to announce that we have lost our first doctor, Dr. Muhammad Ali, a Tanzanian national, 37 years old male, the health minister Jane Ruth Esseng tweeted. She said Ali had tested positive for Ebola on September 26 and died while receiving treatment at a hospital in Fort Portal, a town about 300 kilometers west of the capital, Kampala. Authorities in the East African nation announced the outbreak of the deadly hemorrhagic fever on September 20, triggering fears of a major health crisis in the country of 45 million people. There is no vaccine for the Sudan strain of the disease behind the latest Ugandan infection. The health ministry said on Friday, before Ali's death, that the disease had so far infected 35 people and killed 7. Ali was among 6 health workers who included doctors, anesthesiologists, and 1 medical student who have contracted the disease. Ebola mainly spreads through contact with the bodily fluids of an infected person. The viral disease has symptoms including intense weakness, muscles pain, headaches, and a sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea, and rashes, among others. North Korea conducts largest range missile test yet over Japan. Seoul, Tokyo. Nuclear-armed North Korea fired a ballistic missile over Japan for the first time in 5 years on Tuesday, prompting a warning for residents to take cover and a temporary suspension of train operations in northern Japan. The Japanese government warned citizens to take cover as the missile appeared to have flown over and past its territory before falling into the Pacific Ocean. It was the first North Korean missile to follow such a trajectory since 2017, and Tokyo said its 4,600 kilometers or 2,850 miles range may have been the longest distance traveled for a North Korean test flight, which are more often lofted higher into space to avoid flying over the neighboring countries. Recent tests have drawn relatively muted response from Washington, which is focused on the war in Ukraine as well as other domestic and foreign crises. But the US military has stepped up displays of force in the region. Tokyo said it took no steps to shoot the missile down. Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada said Japan would not rule out any options, including counter-attack capabilities, as it looks to strengthen its defenses in the face of repeated missile launches from North Korea. South Korea also said it would boost its military and increase allied cooperation. The United States said it strongly condemned North Korea's dangerous and reckless decision to launch a long-range ballistic missile over Japan. This action is destabilizing and shows the DPRK's blatant disregard for United Nations Security Council resolutions and international safety norms. National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson said in a statement using the initials for North Korea's official name. This is the last one. White House briefing room, press briefing room. This is a statement by President Joe Biden on the violent crackdown in Iran. If you follow the news, Iran is occupied by a very, very violent protest due to, the killing of one woman over there by the government due to this, religious Sharia way of dressing. So the government killed. Because of that, there is protest and all over Iran, plus even at a global stage in support of the protesters back home. So the government is cracking down on protesters. So President Joe Biden is saying the following. Let me read. This is a press statement. I remain gravely concerned about reports of the intensifying violent crackdown on peaceful protesters in Iran. What? In Iran, including students and women who are demanding their equal rights and basic human dignity. They are calling for just and universal principles which underpin the United Nations Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For decades, Iran's regime has denied fundamental freedoms to its people and suppressed the aspiration of successive generations through intimidation, coercion, and violence. The United States stands with Iranian women and all the citizens of Iran who are inspiring the world with their bravery. The United States is making it easier for Iranians to access the internet, including through facilitating greater access to secure outside platforms and services. The United States is also holding accountable Iranian officials and entities such as the morality police that are responsible for employing violence to suppress civil society. This week, the United States will be imposing further cost on perpetrators of violence against peaceful protesters. We will continue holding Iranian officials accountable and supporting the rights of Iranians to protest freely. So that is a statement from White House, from President Joe Biden on protesters' crackdown by Iranian government. Thank you. So let's watch. Let's share the videos I selected for you from different media.
The largest ethnic group came together in the capital on Saturday to mark the festival of Irrecha, marking the end of the rainy season. As well as traditional celebrations, including dipping flowers into water, the participants appealed for peace in their region, which has faced violence over a lack of representation in government. Justice should be served for those whose blood is spilled on the streets and burned with their houses, she says. Our people should not suffer like this. Our farmers couldn't send their children to school and farm their fields. We have to work together to solve this. Currently there is vast repression on the Oromo people, he says. However, the Oromo people are not surrendering to it. We are overcoming oppression and securing freedom. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Irrecha was a festival celebrated by all nations, nationalities and peoples of Ethiopia. He said the celebration promoted peace and love.
One of the co-founders of militant group Al-Shabaab has
This is Somali, Al-Shabaab.
Announced late on Sunday. In a statement, the country's information ministry said the operation against Abdullahi Nadir was carried out on Saturday with international partners. Nadir, the ministry said, was Al-Shabaab's chief prosecutor and in line to replace the group's leader, Ahmed Diriyeh, who is sick. His death is a thorn removed from the Somali nation, the statement read. Al-Shabaab insurgents have killed tens of thousands of people since 2006. The Al-Qaeda-linked group is seeking to overthrow Somalia's Western-backed government and impose its strict interpretation of Islamic law. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, elected in May, has promised to take the fight to the militants.
We are actively fighting the terrorist group.
That's after 3 years in which his predecessor, consumed by political infighting, took little action. Somali security forces have touted gains made in recent weeks while fighting alongside the local self-defense groups. But Al-Shabaab has continued its deadly raids, including 2 on Friday that killed at least 16 people. Somalia's military is supported by US troops and drones and an African Union peacekeeping mission. It was not immediately clear which international partners participated in the operation against Nadir.
Hello again. Well, the lower house of the Russian parliament has unanimously approved laws to absorb 4 Ukrainian regions. The Kremlin says people in those territories will acquire Russian citizenship after taking an oath of loyalty. Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk and Zaporizhia held referenda last month to join Russia. Kyiv's Western allies call it a sham, while the Russian President Vladimir Putin says he won't rule out nuclear weapons to defend Russian land.
Okay, that are the videos I selected for you for today. Thank you for joining me again. So that's the last one is Russia is conducted forced referendum and take away 4 regions from Ukraine and declare them Russians, just by force, really. But the fighting didn't stop yet. Ukrainians are still fighting for their independence, for territorial integrity, with the help of the United States and other Western countries. So the war is not over, but we will see. As you heard, Russia is ready to use nuclear weapon and whatever they have to defend those 4 regions they took by force. That is not, as I said, that is not the right way of leadership or living with the global community at this 21st century. Russia is a problem for us too. Russia and China are the problem for the situation we have in Ethiopia. Abiy is, confident nothing can pass through United Nations. That's why he's just playing around with United States, with European Unions, and saying anything, lying to them, lying to Ethiopians, and relaxing for a time being because nothing can be achieved through United Nations Security Council. He knows, and his ambassadors and his supporters know that, and they can continue this bloody war as long as they have the money available. That's the situation. So I hope Ukraine forces will retake all those regions and defend their territory from Russia. So, and Russia conduct itself according to international law, and do a favor for Ethiopians to end the bloodshed and to make Abiy Ahmed and the Prosperity Party accountable for all the killings, all the tortures, all the atrocities taking place in that country. We hope they will change their mind and in Security Council and make Abiy Ahmed, Prosperity Party officials, his comrades accountable for the ongoing bloodshed in that country. We hope. Thank you so long. Thank you so much for joining me. And please comment, share, like my videos, and so we can just grow the Concerned Citizens Media, so it can be a voice just for sharing a little bit update on Ethiopia and other global issues. And be safe. So long, everyone.